Hey, welcome to or welcome back to How to Change the World, a podcast for people living change in their lives, their work, and their community. We explore everything that you need to drive meaningful impact on the local level, equipping you with the inspiration and tools you need to make change. I am Catherine Alonzo, and today I am joined by Leroy Buster Silva. And before I tell you about Leroy, I want to ask you to do me a teensy-weensy favor, which is if you enjoy the How to Change the World podcast, I would love it if you would leave a rating and a review wherever you listen to podcasts. It really helps us reach new people. And I am going to be featuring those that leave reviews or comments on our YouTube channel, because we also post all of these to YouTube. And today I want to share a comment with you from somebody who listened to our episode with Tawana Nobles, which I would highly recommend if you have not had a chance to listen to it. The comment comes from Marsha Mutisi. I hope I'm pronouncing that correct. And they shared, I marvel at how your story and drive is so similar to mine, even though I grew up in Zimbabwe. And I just really love how the stories that we are able to share on this podcast resonate and connect with people all over the world. And Tawana's story is truly inspirational, and she really shares a lot about how to take all of your experiences and translate them into making a difference in the world. And so I really encourage you to go and check that out. And today's episode is really, really similar in terms of everything that Leroy Buster Silva is, everything he cares about translates into what he does in the world, who he is in the world, and the change that he is trying to make. Leroy Buster Silva is a community mover and shaker from the Pueblo of Laguna in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And he is the executive director of the Laguna Community Foundation, whose mission is to generate resources and charitable support for initiatives that strengthen the Pueblo of Laguna. Community is everything that Leroy Buster Silva is about, and you will absolutely hear that in our conversation. He's also the founder of the social enterprise Family+Indigenize+Thrive, which is an intergenerational movement to revitalize the spirit of wellness through active community connections and partnership building. Buster really is passionate about working alongside and with community champions and organizations to really build capacity for people to connect, to thrive, and to live their very best lives. It was such an incredible honor to talk with him, and I am so excited to share our conversation with you. So without any further ado, here is my conversation with Leroy Buster Silva. Leroy Buster Silva, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thank you very much for having me.
I am so excited to be having this conversation with you and really grateful for your time. So thank you so much for being here.
Yes,
so to start us off, tell me a little bit about your work, the work that you do professionally.
Yes. So currently, I am the executive director for the Laguna Community Foundation. Our mission is to generate charitable resources and capacity building opportunities for the Pueblo of Laguna. That's where I'm from. That's where I was born and raised. And ultimately, right now, I've been the ED for about 2 years, and we provide mini grants to the community, whether that's a champion who is, going off on an adventure in regard to athletics, or they have a chance to increase their knowledge. Also, too, we provide opportunities for people to create projects, make some impact in the community. We also partner with the various entities under the Pueblo of Laguna. There are about 6 of them. So we look for the gaps and the holes in regard to funding. So we go out there, we're a nonprofit organization, so we go out and vie for funding to supplement what they're doing with their program and their funds. Other than that, we engage with community. We love being in a community. If you are a community foundation, you should be in the community. So that's our love, is that we get to go and interact and engage with all the way from the youth all the way to elders, and kind of seeing what they want. Because when you have a genuine conversation with a community member, they're always going to slyly put in there, we need this, we need that, or I love what we're doing, we should do more of that. So that's where we come in regard to providing those resources and just listening and being able to amplify and help our community thrive.
That's awesome. And what about outside of the foundation? I know you have a very rich uh,
Yes.
array of interests. So outside of the foundation, how do you spend your time?
Yeah. So ultimately, I'm a father of four and I'm a husband of one. So that takes, again, big chunk of my time. Other things that I'm very passionate about, wellness. And 2006, I became a wellness teacher at the Native American Community Academy here in Albuquerque, New Mexico. It's a public charter school for Native American students. And so that's where I started my professional journey. I was an educator for 11 years. So teaching holistic wellness. What does that mean? What does that look like? What does that feel like? So that was my background in education. And I've been in the nonprofit sector going on 7 years. And in 2012, I established a social enterprise called Family+Indigenize+Thrive. It's an intergenerational movement to revitalize the spirit of wellness through active community connections and partnership building. So wellness is a part of that. And if you have an idea, you kind of see it different, unless you're speaking from an organization or a school. You have to, again, this is our mission, this is our vision, but it's not essentially yours. So that was kind of like the pivot in regard to creating my own social enterprises, that I see wellness through this lens, with my family, being a father, being a husband, community member. So all of that entails. So wellness is a big part of my life. I also I have a foot in the active business. So I've been an actor for about 10 years. And like I said, that's just a healthy outlet, a creative outlet for me. Again, supplementing with my income for my family. And it's just amazing how everything comes together. But other than that, just I love people. I love community. So I try to find my way and stay balanced at the same time, no matter how many hats I wear. So that's pretty much me in a nutshell.
And do you find that there's a through line that ties all your hats together? Is there something that connects your passions and your pastimes?
Yes, and that's I always say that people are my medicine. So whether there's people, there's a curiosity of what makes them ticks, what are their core values, why do they do what they do? So it's just a curiosity of humanity, and I had that embedded in me since I was a very young kid growing up. What is it? National Geographic was my magazine. That was my go-to. So seeing, people who were different from me and countries and things like that, but actually go into those countries as an adult, that was a game changer. That was a life changer for me. So people has always been my medicine. And we have this saying in our community, it's called Hanu Katratsinia. That means to benefit the people. So that's kind of been my motto. No matter what I do, we're always doing something to benefit somebody else. And that for me, that's, like I said, people are my medicine, and that keeps me, grounded and, in all the hard work that we do.
Well, what I really love about that is it sounds to me like it's full circle. Like people are your medicine, and you are so invested in giving back to people through community. So it sounds to me like it's kind of a flywheel, if you will. Is that your experience of it?
Yep, exactly. And I always share this, especially I have a son. His name is Chase. He just graduated this past May, and he's off to college in the springtime. But I told him that I didn't know what I wanted to do. I just wanted to play basketball. I had the privilege of playing basketball in college and helping people. So those were my two things. And even when I graduated from college, I didn't really have a set goal of what I wanted to do, but helping people and knowing that I had a good connection with people, that kind of put me in a sector where obviously education and nonprofit sector, social sector. So that's, again, that's where I thrive, and that's what I love to do.
And tell me a little bit more about your path from there, from growing up, going to college, playing basketball, knowing that you wanted to do something with people, but you didn't know what the details were. What did your path look like to get you to the various seats that you sit in today?
Yeah, so basketball was my vehicle. I always go back to that, and that was my when I was frustrated, when I was having a difficult time, basketball was always there. So it was just the concentration, having that healthy outlet for myself, but also too, it was the my family was very supportive of me, no matter what I wanted to do. Coaches, community members, anybody who took the time to really invest in me. Whether it's my being athletic or even education or even culturally, I really hold those people in high regard in my heart. But that was pretty much the trajectory, and seeing, the obviously, struggles, and also to the highlights of, growing up on the Laguna Pueblo reservation, but I wanted to do something different. I always wanted to do something different, meet new people. So that was kind of like my goal, is to go off and explore, and, try to get to as many countries on that in those National Geographic books. So, but I think really challenging myself to put myself out there in regard to, I have these gifts. Who am I going to learn from? Where is it going to take me? But also to taking those healthy risks, taking a risk into the education sector and not being a traditional teacher in regard to going to, being being an educator in school, because most of my background was in wellness and Native American studies. So teaching was kind of like should I do this? I don't have the proper training, but they have a certificate program here in New Mexico where if you have a bachelor's degree, that you can get your teaching certificate. So that's the route I took, and after that, everything clicked. And it's all about, building your network, building connections to people. And from there, if you do good work, if you, you're a positive role model in the community, people will notice that. And again, they'll bring you in with happy arms and invite you to certain things. So that's where I found the power of networking, the power of, just being an active member in the community, and in regard to the sector that I work in. So it's all about connections and going back to people, and and identifying where do I fit in and how can I help the community thrive.
I love that National Geographic has been such an inspiration for you.
Yes.
It's so cool. It's funny how one of the things I think a lot is that in life, we're basically all just creating things for each other. Mm-hmm. Whether we create art or ideas or inspiration, we're on the planet for as long as we are, and we basically spend our time creating things for other people. And yes. I love that all of the folks that created National Geographic shaped many lives, but shaped your life. And then yes. in turn, you shape your entire community. It's a really beautiful thing, I think.
Yes. Yes. And, big ups to all the writers, creators, photographers, videographers of National Geographic.
That's awesome. Big up to them. Who knew we were going to dedicate this episode to National Geographic?
Yes, please support this podcast.
Yeah, seriously, this is not advertised. So you said something though in that last answer I wanted to come back to. You said healthy risks. Yes. And taking healthy risks. So what for you is a healthy risk, and how do you know the difference between a healthy risk versus an unhealthy risk?
I think it's the healthy risk is like going back to the saying of benefiting the people. You have a decision to make. Is this going to benefit me, my family, my community, or is it going to be the opposite? Whether it's going to be a detriment to your health or your reputation and things like that. So we have to navigate what that means, and that goes back to our values. And if this is going to be, because everything, and personally, everything that I do, all the decisions I make, if I have to travel or if I want to apply to a certain program, things like that, I talk it over with my wife, because again, we're a team together. We have kids, and again, schedules, and making sure that's where the balance happens too. If I'm traveling all the time, there's that disconnect that continues that happens. So, that's a healthy risk. If it's going to benefit a person, they're going to gain knowledge, if they're going to gain more opportunities for doing that, if it's going to benefit their community, yes, do it. But at the same time, are those decisions that we have to make, is that, yes, you're playing with fire, and it could go both ways. It could benefit you, but at the same time, there's that, risk of not necessarily failure, but putting yourself in a situation that could have been prevented. So,
I was going to ask you that, because can you always tell if it's going to be beneficial or not?
Yeah, I think so. And that depends on each person. I feel that, so I have a different, navigation gauge, and, I'm really good at reading people and people's intentions. And I really feel that that's a skill that I've developed over time, is that, people you're partnering with are people that you want to give you donations, but at the same time, looking at it as funds, as funding, but at the same time, what's the backstory behind that? What's your intentions? With any relationship too, building a relationship, even like a romantic relationship or even just a friendship, is that people go in with various intentions, and you have to learn about one another, and that'll kind of determine exactly if you want to move forward, or maybe I should keep an eye on this person. but I really feel that it depends on the person, that they really have to use their gauge, their personal gauge within their heart, within their mind, to determine what's going to benefit them, but also to, if they're overseeing an organization, or you're in charge of a community, that's where it comes in handy as well.
Well, and you mentioned values as well. And I think that anytime you're making a personal determination, it is pretty vital to know, what are my core values? What are the things that matter the most to me? Are your core values something that you use as a tool in your life and your leadership?
Yes, exactly. And I love this question, because that's exactly what I had in my notes. But one of those big things is a respect. I've learned respect from a very young age in my Pueblo, whether it was like our ceremonies, people just talking to you, giving you advice, but also to my mom mentioning, whoever comes through your path, whether they treat you well or they don't, is that, that line of respect of everybody, but also to the respect for nature, respect for everything, living, things like that. So respect is a huge core value that I always practice. Another one is love. Not being able to say I love you without feeling who's looking.
Yeah.
Sharing that I come from a loving family where, my family is always saying, we love you, we're hugging, we're affectionate. So that's something that my kids grew up with, and I'm very happy that they do that. Because I've had friends in the past, and people say, wow, your family's really huggy. Or they, it's a little weird to, they say I love you, because, unfortunately, there are some families that don't do that, or some people that don't hear the word
Sure.
I love you on a daily basis. So love is a big part of who I am and how I express that. Other things are just what else? Just a community. I feel that that's a core value as well, and that's what I learned at the Native American Community Academy, is that respecting who's in your community, how can you help them, but more so is that when you come together, big things can happen, and that's where essentially where I continue to gather and help people with. But at the same time, those are the three core values that I really focus on, that helps my work, but also helps with other things that I do, and being a family man, husband, and a dad.
And what does it look like for you to utilize those three core values, love, respect, and community? Is it something that you consciously think about? Like, what do my core values tell me to do in this situation? Is it like that?
Yes. And just a prime example, at the Laguna Community Foundation, we're in the works of, we're creating an event called the Community Capacity Building Summit in November. And all of those things, the core values come into play, is that how do we want people to feel? What do we want to walk away with? But at the same time, is that's where the listening part comes in, is that, what do you want in this summit? And basically that's where the community part comes in. The love is making sure that they, they're getting what they need in that space. Also too, just the respect of, we're making sure that we're opening the event with a blessing, or making sure those protocols are done, making sure everybody is taken care of. Love comes in food. That attracts people to different events. So yeah, so that's essentially that's where core values come in, is that how do we want people to feel when they're there, not just host a summit just full of information and forget about all the little protocols, and forget people to tell people that they're loved, and that their ideas are like gold to us, but at the same time that they're building their personal capacity to help them further their business or further their professional development, whatever sector they work in. So that's one example how I how we conduct our work at the Laguna Community Foundation is that, how do we want people to feel? And we're intentional with those, with building out those opportunities for the community. So that's essentially how it works. But other than that, family-wise, I mean, it's always there. Love is always there. Respect is always there. And also to teaching our kids the value of being an active community member. So, and they see it all in action. And that's one of the things we'll get to in a little bit. Who benefits from our work is essentially my kiddos. They're like the front row seat because essentially we want them to be those people in the community as well.
Yeah. So we're absolutely going to come back to that. So I'm really glad that you mentioned it. So before we do talk about that, let's talk a little bit about how success is defined for you. So when you think about the trajectory of your life and your career and how it all ties together, looking forward, if you were going to achieve sort of your greatest success, all of your goals, professional, personal, have been met, how would the world be different?
How do I define success first? Is I'm a basic person. I'm very just it comes down to, again, the person. Is success to me is making somebody smile and helping people feel good about themselves, helping people through challenges, connecting organizations, communities, and people with resources. That's what success means to me. Again, just it's right there. It's happening. You smile, a hug, things like that, and making people feel that they're valuable. Especially being in education. I worked with kids, who came from supportive families, but at the same time, some of them were foster kids. Some of them were, lived with uncle or grandma, things like that. So our family dynamics were a little different. So it was unfortunate that some of them came to school to feel loved. And that's essentially, again, that's where it comes from. You, again, just give a high five, make somebody feel good. That's a success to me because it's there. You see it, you feel it. And, for me, that was my motivation to keep on going. And if everything, all my, my big goals were accomplished or anything like that, I feel that people will have a better understanding of humanity, not just being a Native American or, some of my Black brothers and sisters or anybody else, is that, you have a better understanding of humanity. Where do your core values live? Always practicing the value of reflection is that where do I stand within this, whether it's chaos or, whether it's a success, things like that, but also to how can you give back? And we talk about, a cup overflowing, mine's overflowing with coffee right now, but how do you share the excess? So I was just watching, I follow this gentleman on Instagram, and he's always talking about public speaking and being proactive and the little tips and tricks. And he said, be generous with your energy. So be generous with your energy is that you want people around you to feel your energy. You're not faking it. It's just something you do. And I really feel that that's something that I had to learn. And that's something that I really felt necessary to continue in my own life. Because when I speak, when I do work, is that people know they're going to have a good time. People know that they're going to feel loved. And that's the vibe I feel that people we should really focus on, is that what type of vibe, what type of energy do we emit on a daily basis? Yes, we have our bad days, but at the same time, that's where our wellness belt comes in, is that, yes, I'm feeling stressed right now, or I'm feeling angry, take out your breathing tool, or what is your healthy outlet, whether that's physical, mine is physical, running, throwing medicine balls on the floor, things like that. But I really feel that after everything is done, accomplished, is that people have a better understanding and a better appreciation for humanity, whether they're your neighbor or even your loved ones, things like that. So I really feel that that's where people can take a step back and where do I fit in this? How am I contributing to this, to the world or the world that the space that I've taken up? So I really feel that that's where people can really learn from. No matter, again, you can touch millions of people's lives. You can make X amount of money, but at the same time, it comes back to you. What are you contributing to the world, and what type of energy are you emitting in your environment?
I love that. And one of the things that really strikes me about that is that definition of success is less about an outcome and more about a process.
Mhm.
It's less about what are we creating, what are we changing. It's more about how are we living day to day?
Yes.
What are we emitting? What are we sharing? What are we inspiring? And that has no end date.
Yeah. And when we talk about the world, and it pops a quote in my head. I went to Philadelphia a few years ago, and when we were on the tour bus, we were taking a tour of all the various amazing murals in the city. And one of them in particular stuck with me. And it was spray painted, not so fancy, but it says, "Change the world from where you're standing." I think, we have these big goals of we want to change the world. And that's a big, a big bite to change the world. But that really, at that particular time, that really hit my heart. So change the world from where you're standing. So you can take a look around. I can change my family, the trajectory of, shattering those generational cycles. I can, change my neighbor's life, people that I work with on a daily basis, my friends that are in reach. So that really hit home to me. And because I really feel that no matter how much ambition and determination you want everybody to change the whole world, that can take that's a lot of energy. That's a lot of time. But at the same time, if you want to just focus around what you can change everything like that's around you. You can change right here what's in your heart. You can change, you can change what you did yesterday to a better today and tomorrow, things like that. So just taking those bits and pieces, again, this going back to yourself, because everything that that goes on with your heart, that goes on with your mind, your goals, it starts with yourself. And essentially that's where it all starts. And we had to go back to that.
100%. I love that so much. So in the when you are living your sort of values aligned life on a day-to-day basis, it's not necessarily about end goals, but it's about how you're living. Mm-hmm. What shift does that create in the world around you?
Oh man. I think it's just it brings everything into perspective. Again, just focusing on what do I bring to the table? What do I bring to the table as Leroy Buster Silva, but also to just a like Native American man, a husband, a father. And I think it really puts everything into perspective in regard to, what do I want for myself, my community? And that in return is that people are always observing, not necessarily always criticizing, but also to taking bits and pieces of people's lives to help their own lives as well. So I really feel that for us to change the world in that aspect, just live the best life that we can, live the best life that's afforded to us, be proud of who we are, be proud of where we come from. And granted, too, some of us have lived through some dark history, but at the same time, how are we using that as fuel to, correct those wrongs within our family or within our own communities? So I really feel that that's the ripple effect. Is that you start it and then it ripples out to other people. So I feel that that's something that we can focus on in our lives, that we can continue to just continue to make ripples, but at the same time, just focus on, what do we have control over? Because, and that's where the most meaningful change is happening within our own families or within ourselves.
That's
and I hope that answered your question.
It does. And I think it's really powerful. One of the things that you are doing is you're really sharing with us, this idea of how can we create change in the world? How can we change the world is lofty and big. And sometimes it feels removed from what we can do. Mm-hmm. And what you're really emphasizing is when you really laser into what change can I create? What can I focus on within my domain, within my community, my family, within the talents within my control? It's the domain might be smaller, but the impact is just as big. Is really what I'm taking away from what you're saying.
Yes. And I, and that's something that, growing up I was always feeling intimidated by what was deemed smart. and, book smart, things like that. But I always knew, and I didn't realize it until I was an adult, that I always had a connection with people and a connection with, doing something well. And I think that's where, being a perfectionist came in, even at a young age, is that I want to make sure that I do my best at this, because that's what I have control over. And that's, transpired into my adulthood. And so I really feel that, the trajectory of my life has, just things that I can have control over, but also to a healthy risk is not being intimidated with those things that I didn't grow up with. And that's, some of those things of having, my, like a father figure. My dad was in and out of my life. So that was always a fear. And like I said, just being real, is that being a provider, that was a big, learning curve for me, and it was intimidating. And that's again, that kind of sabotaged some relationships in the past, just because, again, it's my fear is could I do that, and not giving thought to it. But again, it was for me being okay with that, and me taking that leap and having my wife as a partner there with me and saying, yes, we're going to do this together. And and that's what it took. And that's another healthy risk that's another example in my life that I've taken, is having a healthy marriage, having those healthy conversations, but at the same time not being afraid of what I didn't see growing up. So again, and that again, from a nutshell, I'm a family man first, I'm a husband first, and then everything else comes next. So I think, having a healthy relationship with my wife, having a healthy relationship with my kids, that helps me have a healthy relationship with my community, with my work.
I love that. I love that. So we're gonna talk a little bit more about who you do the work for, but let's go to a quick ad break, and then we will be right back.
Sounds good.
At Javelina, developing and telling stories that create change is our bread and butter. It's why we get up in the morning, and if you are a nonprofit seeking to create change, we would love to help you do just that. We provide purpose-driven branding and marketing services to help change makers like you tell your story, maximize your impact, and build strong connections with your communities. We know that you have an incredible story to tell, and we want to help you tell it. Head to javelina.co to check out our services and schedule a free consultation today to find out how together we can change the world. Okay, so we have had a wonderful conversation so far about the change that we all can make in our communities, and how you have been inspired to drive the change that you care about.
Yes.
And something that has come up, through our whole conversation is the people, who you do it for, who you do it with. So tell me a little bit about, when you imagine the people that you are doing the work for, who is it that you see?
The people close to me, and the people who are going to benefit my work and see me in action are definitely my kids and my wife. Again, the reason for that is because I want them to see the growth, but at the same time, take bits and pieces, not to be like us, but to say, my dad does this, my mom does this well, and I'm going to take that and implement it in my life. And it might not hit right away, but they'll have that guidance. They'll have that type of role model to, ask questions and to say, I learned this from this person. So that's like right off the bat. But people I imagine is, I always think about intergenerational. So within my own community, where our office is, the Laguna Community Foundation, we're within the Laguna Pueblo Nation of New Mexico. So I see young kids at the elementary school, also to the babies, and I see the elders who we visit at the Guake Senior Center and the Laguna Rainbow Center. So I see all of those people. And what helps me, this is something that you can't learn in a book. Maybe you can, but how to code switch, how do you get your message across? How do How do you learn how to interact with kids at a very young age? I have a 3-year-old, and to maybe a 99-year-old person who's at the elderly center. So I really feel that that's where social skills, and that's where my love for people come in, is that if you want to connect with people, you got to learn how to connect with people, to communicate, to listen, to to just engage. And I really feel that those are the people that we work for. And no matter within the Pueblo of Laguna, we have various entities. We have the Laguna Education Department. We have the Laguna Utility Authority. So no matter which department or entity you work for, we have a common goal, and that is to help our community, Goikame. So that's where that's the audience. That's who we work for. And, that's who I love, because I've done work for everybody else in my professional life. So it's been 2 years since I've been back home working professionally. And, I love it because I see my old teachers. I see people I grew up with, my friends, my family. I see them, and now I get to, do some work with them and engage with them on a daily basis. So when I think about, when you say, when I close my eyes, who do I think about that? I think about those people. And like I said, it hits different when you do work for your community. Some people say it's hard, but at the same time, it's all about how you communicate with people and how you resonate with them.
And some people that say it's hard, tell me more about that.
Yes. So people sometimes within your own community, I just speak for my own community, that people are a little bit more critical of you, especially within your position, whether they want something really quick, or they say, why are they working there, or why are they doing, XYZ? So I think it's been a test, not necessarily for me, but this is what I've heard in the past. Like I said, I think I have my communication skills are up to par. So I really feel I don't see that, and people may see it as challenges, but just being able to fight through all the drama, whether that's people, how they communicate with one another. Maybe there's some disagreements, they don't talk it out, but they stay mad with each other, and that affects work. Maybe some family members don't get along with certain family members, and they're in a certain position, things like that. So there's various dynamics within our own community. But I think the main thing too, and what I've seen and what I've heard, is just being able to have those communication skills. What's in your tool belt? If you do have a disagreement, how are you going to talk it out? How are you going to, get through this challenge? You can still be friends, you can still be coworkers, things like that. But there has to be a sense of, unlearning those type of toxic communication skills in regard to bad mouthing each other. Because like I said, at the end of the day, we're all working together to help our community thrive. And those are just some examples. Like I said, it's never, I want to say it's never, but I don't have those problems. I feel that I have a good connection with the community. And if there is a challenge that pops up, then, that's where my tool belt comes in regard to, working on those conversations. And like I said, it's all about how you communicate with people, and understanding there's a certain line. When people cross it, then there's, it depends. It's situational, but yeah. So those are some examples of some challenges that are working for and within my own community. And I'm sure, like I said, every community is different, but I can only speak for my own.
Well, and you seem like a really naturally positive, optimistic person, and yet you are indeed human. And so I'm assuming that you have harder moments like everybody does. And so what are some of the things that you do to navigate through those harder, more challenging moments and days?
First of all, I check in with myself, because our body's response to stress, that's something, a tool that I worked on over the years, is that, where am I feeling stressed, and how can I get rid of it? Because if I get rid of that stress and what's bothering me, if I need to go for a run or I need to work out, so I get rid of that tension, and so that my mind can think clearly. So that's my protocol, what I do. But at the same time, I take a step back. I do reflection. I write a lot of things down. So I have a journal with me, and with markers. So I usually draw things out, whether it's words or pictures, and I lay everything down that's bothering me or that's going on. So maybe, what are the things that are going on? If there was a certain challenge, what is that challenge? Recognizing it, writing it down. How does it make me feel? But if it's work related, what am I doing? I go back, do I need to communicate more? Do I need to do X, Y, Z? If it's a personal thing, who do I need to talk to? Is it worth my energy that I'm feeling stressed? Is it worth my energy that I'm, feeling this way? So I really do a lot of self-reflection. And again, that's one of those values that I learned. And at being an educator as well, we had this thing called the wellness wheel, which was created to basically, it's like a gauge of how you're feeling right now. So the smaller the circle is like, hey, you got to get checked out. But the bigger the circle, you want that, you want your circle to be big. So, but the main thing, the most important thing about that wellness wheel is identifying what is that stressor or what is that challenge, but what is your plan to work through it? Not to sweep it under the rug because it's there still. But what is your plan in order to help you through the challenge? Who do you need to talk to? Who is who's your support system? Things like that. If it's if it's one of those challenges that require other people's help, but at the same time, it's like raising your hand, I need help, and being okay with that. So anyway, that's basically personally how I do things. Professional related or personal is that reflection. Writing things down, talking through it, and looking through my Rolodex and kind of seeing who can I reach out to for support.
I love that. I really love that. Thank you for sharing that with us. And so one of the things I wanted to ask you about was what's your biggest wish for your community? If you could ask the genie and you just were like, I would like this for my community. What is it that you would wish for them?
Sorry, this one gets me a little emotional. I think my wish for my community is for them to acknowledge the genius inside them, and to be more confident of advocating for themselves, asking for help, and taking care of their bodies and their families, and just acknowledging their worth. Because growing up there, alcoholism, and within my own family, just certain social dynamics, things like that. So, that's everywhere, but at the same time, just seeing it at face value and growing up with certain situations, that's one of the things, but also to looking from another lens professionally, some of those same things are happening throughout the community. And my mind is, I wish I could be the, save everybody, but give them the resources, make sure that but at the same time, they need to acknowledge that they're valued, that they're worth, more than gold. That's essentially what I want our community to acknowledge. And I think, on a broader scale, that's what I want people to acknowledge from themselves, is that to really, think about themselves and, acknowledge their worth. And, and yeah, so if you were to give me just one wish, that's something, is to acknowledge their worth. And from there to make moves on, building a better, healthier lifestyle, or, open the business that they want to, or getting their education, or even learning their language and culture, making amends with any grudges, things like that, to help them live better, their quality of life increase, all of that. But it just starts with that, a person saying, I am worth it. I love myself, and I'm going to go and, accomplish as much as I can. So So yeah, so that, like I said, that question hit home because that's essentially what I've been feeling. And I think that's where the heart work comes in. And that's what I love, why I love what I do.
Well, it really comes across, and thank you so much for sharing that with us. What I heard in your answer was just this true passion and drive for really wishing or even yearning that people can see them how you see them. Mm-hmm. And the way, Buster, that you do see your community and the people that you do your work for and with, from your family all the way up to people that you've never met and never will meet, yes. Is really, it just comes across in every word that you share with us. So I really want to thank you for that, because it's so authentically held, and I think is really inspirational and will be able to provide that kind of inspiration for the people listening. So thank you so much.
Yes, thank you for providing the space. And yeah, it's a lot. It's not hardware, it's heart work. So yeah, that's what we thrive on.
Yeah. Well, that sort of leads us perfectly into our rapid round of questions, which is, I struggle to say rapid fire. There you go, rapid fire round of questions. The first thing I want to ask you is, for people listening, for anyone who wants to learn more about your work or about the themes that we've explored today, what is a resource that you might suggest for them?
Well, definitely Laguna Community Foundation can be found on social media, Facebook, Instagram. So please follow us. Not only, and I told Catherine that it's nice to be on the other side. We have various platforms that we interview our champions from the Pueblo of Laguna to amplify who they are, what they do. So definitely, visit us for those interviews. But at the same time, November is Native American Heritage Month. So I wanted to big up some organizations that I've worked with in the past that do wonderful things. First one is the Americans for Indian Opportunity. I was a fellow with one of their programs, but they're making moves here in Albuquerque, but they have connections in Aotearoa in New Zealand and in South America. So it's a wonderful organization to learn about, especially with Native American policy in regard to the relationship with tribal government relationship. Another one is First Nations Development Institute. Sorry about that. But I've done some work with them, but they're making moves in the philanthropy world for communities near and far. So follow their work. And again, they're in environmental, language and culture, arts. So that's another resource. But another one that that really hits home, and that's here in Albuquerque, being that family. I'm a family man, and we love supporting them, is the Coalition to Stop Violence Against Native Women. Their organization is to eradicate violence against Native women and children by championing social change within our communities. So they're doing wonderful things. Like I said, if you're just a whole gamut of people who are doing wonderful work in the community, but at the same time acknowledging that November is rolling around, that it's Native American Heritage Month. So these are some of the organizations that are making moves in various capacities to help Native American communities thrive. But I have a lot more, but I probably take up more time. So shout out to all the organizations who help our communities thrive.
That is an incredible list of resources. Thank you so much. And for those listening, what is one thing that you would encourage them to think about differently?
I would encourage the listeners to think about what do you bring to the table? How are you creating change in the world or from where you're standing? What is your contribution going to be to your community? And have you heard anybody tell you they loved you? Or have you told anybody that you love them? And it all comes back down to who you are. Take time to reflect, take time to acknowledge yourself, take time to celebrate yourself. Some people may see that as selfish, but we need those little wins. But at the same time, making sure that you surround yourself with good people who support you, and we can all make change together. in regard to, what our goals are. So I put that out there for people to take more time for themselves, whether that's self-care, to celebrate one another, and to feel loved, whatever that may look like for you. So, but anyway, that's kind of like the advice that I have for the listeners today.
That's great. That's wonderful. Thank you so much, Buster, for this incredible conversation and just all of the wisdom that you've shared. I have been really so grateful for our time together today.
Thank
and
you.
before we wrap up, just the last final question: how, for anyone that is listening who would like to connect with you, what is the best way that they can do that?
Yes, best way. I'm on LinkedIn, so Leroy Buster Silva. Instagram, Leroy Buster Silva, and also to our Laguna Community Foundation Facebook page, Instagram page, or you can just send me an email at leroy@lagunacf.org. That's the fastest way you can get a hold of us.
Wonderful. Buster, thank you so very much. It has been amazing to talk to you today.
Thank you very much, Catherine. Thank you for having me on.
There you have it, another incredible conversation with a powerful change maker who is truly moving and shaking things, not only in his own community, but around the world, because his passion and his energy just comes through in everybody he speaks to. And I'm sure that that has been true for you. I certainly hope that it has. There were tons of things that he said. I was like making notes and writing things down, but there were a couple that I wanted to reflect back because I thought they were really powerful. First of all, Buster shared with us to change the world from where you're standing. Wherever you are, whoever you see the most, your family, your friends, the small number of people that you interact with on a day-to-day basis, you have the ability to change the world by changing their world. And so think about what you want that to be and who you want to be in those spaces. And really similarly, he asked us, how do you share the excess of everything you have when you spill over, when you have love and abundance and joy in your life? How are you sharing that with others? Our cup isn't full all the time. And so when someone else's cup is not full, how are you sharing your overflowing cup? And then how can you receive that when your cup is empty and you need to top up from other people? And similarly to that, he asked us, what energy is it that you want to share? What is the energy you want to take into the spaces that you're in, into the social interactions and into your communities? And those are 3 ideas, 3 questions that I think are really powerful. So I'll leave you with those. I would love to hear from you. A friendly reminder that if you have enjoyed this conversation, drop us a comment on our YouTube page or a rating and review on whatever platform that you listen to. It helps us grow. I would be so incredibly grateful if you would do that for us. And thank you so much for being here. Until next time, when I cannot wait to share another story of change with you, have a great one.